Give it a second. Okay, recording has now started and we're underway. So our first speaker will be Stefan from Artifact Security. Take it away, Stefan.
Thank you, guys. Can you see that okay? Am I showing
good.
Okay. So hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I was security analyst for the Nextology Labs, then CTO for AC Labs, and we started Artifact Security, well, this year still, it's still 2025, earlier on. I am also board member of AMTSO, and also member of a couple of working groups alongside the scam and phishing one for this particular area. Before we get into scam and phishing, one of the main reasons why we moved into this area was because when we set up Artifact, we wanted to always operate on new approaches to dealing with security threats. And as we all know, scams and phishing in particular this year, I think, have been the most prevalent threats subjected to the consumers and the business side. And we're mostly going to focus on the consumer side of things, but we also have things on the business side going into 2026. So what we stand for is really innovation and transparency, and that's what we always strive for when it comes to our testing and methodologies. So that's sort of what drives how we do our testing. When it comes to how we perform this sort of tests, we have a pretty standard deployment phase testing and feedback where the participants get enough data to validate the threats that we use, and at the end they get a nice shiny report. Now, I'm not going to bother you with this too much, as we need to get into the meaty things. So, Scott, I hope you don't mind. I used already some of the work that we did in the scam and phishing group. So this is a very short version of a working definition that we are doing together with a couple of different AMTSO members, where we're trying to differentiate what is scam, spam, and right now we're also working with the term sham. But for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus on scams. We defined a short version of what a scam is a malicious or fraudulent attempt to deceive someone for personal gain. That's really the short definition that we have working on right now. Hopefully we have something public. I think before the end of the year, that's the goal on this side. I also wanted to include this slide just as encouragement for people who are interested in this area to join our working group. I think it's been one of the most active working groups that I've been part of, and there's a lot of good discussions in this area. The next steps we're going to have is to discuss scenarios and go into a bit more details above just defining terms. So for now, the most important thing is to keep in mind is that when we talk about scam and phishing, we are not trying to touch anything to do with spam or that can be considered in that sort of category. For us, what we really care about as Artifact is the intent of what is being sent, and as long as there's a fraudulent or malicious attempt to do that, then that's what we consider a scam. I really appreciate the work that we've done on this side when it comes to getting something together. So I'm going to speak about what we did in 2025 in our first round in September, the feedback that we received, and then we're going to cover the major changes that we're doing in 2026. I'm also going to announce the participants for 2026. And Scott, tomorrow you'll receive the full test plan with everything. But for us, we tried to keep the methodology platform agnostic. So we don't care where you deploy. In the September run, we ran a Windows 11 and Android test. together with Cloud Email and Assistant where possible. And we focused on email, web phishing, and text messaging as the delivery methods. And in terms of the scam types, they were fairly varied. We had a couple of investment scams. There was a bunch of impersonation, and we also crafted phishing based on European banks. Now, when it comes to how we test all of these delivery methods, we try to categorize them to make it easier to understand. So when it comes to email delivery, we send these using Gmail-based users, and we have a first chance of protection from the email client if it's enrolled in such a thing. The important note is that we don't use GoFish or any simulating tools when we send these emails, and that's mostly because unless you configure them, they will get flagged as, you run dangers of being flagged as a spammer, which, as I said before, we want to avoid. And it's actually a popular way that real attackers actually use to distribute these. So the first chance of detection when it comes to our email delivery is the email protection itself. After that, we open the email in the browser where the screenshot is taken for submission. And if there's an AI assistant option available by the tested solution, we submit that screenshot as a normal user would to see if the AI assistant does its job and what its verdict is. But at the same time, we also follow the link in the browser to see if the secure browser or if there's an extension deployed, if it's detected there or on device. So we try to give a fair shot throughout the scam chain for it to be detected. At the very last step, we also have a screenshot of the final landing page to be submitted by the AI assistant. Because from what we've seen is users either submit the email itself or when they actually get to the final page as a request to the AI assistant itself for its verdict. Yes, just a quick note that we use real domains, which is something that I will come back to in a second, and to try to keep things from being blocked by the domain registrars or our ISPs. We only keep this up when it comes to our crafted scenarios, at least only during exposure, because this is a major issue with this kind of testing where domain registrars are a lot better at blocking domains that they see being abused for this sort of things. On mobile, it's a very simple flow. We have a malicious message containing a link, whether that's coming from us as during the crafted sample or the actual attackers that we run as digital identities, which we'll get to in a second. The system has a chance to auto-convict if it has the capability, or we also submit that via screenshot submission to its AI assistant. So when it comes to the kinds of scams that we collect and we run in this test, we have the concept of digital shelf identities, where we have constant running honeypots of real users with social media presence, with real emails, and we also sign them up for different social media platforms or work platforms, because we found that there are a bunch of scams also going on there. We made a guide that has got a professional side and also hobbies and so on. Fletcher is just one of our examples over here. When it comes to tailoring the algorithm, this is something that we did during the testing, and this is what's happening right now in preparation for the January test as well, where on the social media side, we are preparing the algorithms to be more likely to be fed posts that look like scams, or that may lead to other types of scams. As you can see from the screenshot, is at the time when we took this, it was mostly some sort of crypto investment scams. Another type of scam that we had in the first run, and we will continue to have in the next run, because they are, unless they're going to stop, we obviously will not change it, is the type of message that gets people to like random posts on TikTok or Instagram. And this is an example of one where our shelf identity got approached to like a post on TikTok, where the user is instructed to give a very basic, to do a very basic task. And after you perform the first task, you submit it as proof. Their first argument is that they give you a sort of small deposit of £8 or whatever your local currency is. And what we did, we didn't actually give them real bank account details. We just generated a fake screenshot of us receiving £8 in our Revolut account. And you get invited to a private Telegram group with, as you can see over here, there were about 1,500 members at that time. But they repost these screenshots as a way to gain trust of the other users that this is a legitimate work. And you could actually get, as you can see, this is us giving, these are all fake details, of course. And they don't really care, obviously. But the screenshot that they submit over there is us crafting it. And you see over here, there's tons and tons of different tasks and different proofs of people being paid. And the scam really only comes in later on for the users when they get asked to do more and more high-end tasks where they require the user to pay them in the range of hundreds of thousands. And of course, eventually, the users won't get the promised returns back. The tricky part about testing these is the fact that to be part of this group strategy, you actually have to be quite active. If we found that within 24 hours of not being active in here, you get kicked out of the group. So they move quite fast. Now, how do we go from originals to crafted? So we try to reflect this through threat intelligence that is out there and provided by security vendors, security analysts that are out there. But also we try to reflect what we get in our honeypots. We tried our best to not bias it just to what's in our honeypots, because we are UK based, so we were aware that it will be a bit more focused on that. So that's why we try to bring in as much threat intelligence as possible from other areas. But what we are trying to do is expand the size of the test as much as possible. So one of the key learnings that we had from the September run is really that the sample size, first of all, was fairly small. We had about 40 overall scenarios. And in 2026, we are going to have over 100 scenarios, which is more than double than what we had. Another thing that we learned is how sensitive the security products were to the domain itself, where we didn't have unique domains per scenario. And what we found is that the age of the registered domain and how much it was up had a massive influence on the result of some security vendors. All of these results are already up on our website, and they can be downloaded and analyzed. And lastly is retests. If we need to do retests for any reason, either it can be for tester error or for analysis, that already taints the result. So we have to recraft the scenario from scratch in order for it to be a valid test in the actual report. So for 2026, we've invested quite a lot to have unique domains and per each scenario, and it's going to greatly increase the realism of the test. I mentioned already increased scenario size. For the first time ever, we also have an education rating where for the AI assistant side of things, we will have a separate rating, separate to the total accuracy, where we will test how accurate the information given by the AI assistant is. And this is something that's really new because AI assistants in security products is a fairly new approach to dealing with scams, but I think it's something that's needed because especially when it comes to scams, we have attackers that navigate from WhatsApp to Telegram to a browser. So it's really hard, especially on mobile, to get a consistent idea of what's happening throughout the entire chain. So the AI assistant, at least through context and asking the user for more context, can really help identify the right answer. And even from the first run, we've done this sort of as a POC when we run our September run. We saw sometimes that there are some vendors that would request a bit more context from the user. Things such as, do you know the sender? Are you expecting a request for money? But also it was very interesting to see them trying to educate the user in terms of, this is why I think it's a scam, which is very interesting to see, and it sort of means that hopefully in the future, the user will depend less and less on the AI assistant itself to give a verdict. But this is where the important part is, that we need to make sure that the data that it gives back is correct. And we did see that just like most AI that you use, sometimes it's not 100% correct. So it will be very interesting to see what the results will be in 2026, especially because we'll have a large enough sample size for this, and we have a lot more participants as well. We also are including click fix, file fix, and fake captcha, and it sort of means that the on-device protection will get a better test, as this was lacking in September, where we were only really looking at browser security or URL filtering, however you want to call it. And we're also adding video scams, and we're talking here about both deep fakes, and we are also actually we're going to have real actors as part of the scams to try to convince users to send money and so on, especially in pig butchering scams. So here's the big slide for the first half test. These are the 6 vendors that we're including. We are planning to run this test twice in the next year, and there are still 2 slots open. So if there's anybody who sees this, or anybody has a suggestion for other vendors that should be part of this list, feel free to reach out to us, and we can reach out to them. We chose these vendors because they are market leaders in this area. So we hope to get a good range of results, and it should be the most comprehensive test in this area. Especially, I know there's other phishing tests going on as well, but scam and phishing combined, as far as I know, there isn't such a test going on. At the very end, we are also going to redesign our reports. We had some solid feedback on the reports, and it was mostly positive. We had a few mentions of turning this into a comparative, And we are planning to do a comparative in the second round of the test, also the second round of the year. But that is all down to the market reception right now of how the first round is going to go. Because as we all know, comparatives are quite hard to do. And while everybody else for H1 is going to get the individual reports at the same time, so you can look at the results side by side. We're not going to release a comparative report for that first run. Our thresholds for the awards, we go for S, A, B, C, D. The S stands for super, as in products that are sort of a tier above the rest compared to the competition. And users should usually be happy, should be confident that they get a very good protection from that. And as in the first run, we're going to have all the environment details and the tracker tradecraft and solution configuration on our GitHub post the test. As vendors who participate in the test, they will get this they will get updates on a weekly basis for our results. And there's also options to request localization for both the report itself and even for localization of the threads themselves. But that will be run at the same time as the main core of the testing. So if somebody wants a test specifically for things in Germany, for example, we will run that at the same time with an extra bunch of scenarios focused on Germany. That's it. That's all my slides. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. I wanted to run through this, as I said before, I'm a bit short for time today. But yeah, is there any questions?